Well, color me dumbfounded. Apparently, the NBA doesn't value a 6'9", 230-pound dude who can get down bang in the post or step out and hit 333 career three-pointers, all while being a team-first dude who puts everyone else and everything above himself. Brady Manek was not drafted on Thursday night, and I am irked.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, it's Friday, June 24th, 2022. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast. I'm your host, Isaac Schade, and I want to thank you for making Locked On Tar Heels your first listen or your first watch every single day. Please don't forget, we're free and available wherever you get podcasts, so you can subscribe right now. Go ahead, if you're watching, smash the like button so we know you're here. And you know what? Go ahead, share in your anger with me about Brady Manek not getting drafted on Thursday evening and why you're upset about that. A couple of housekeeping things, though, before we get into talking about the draft. First off, as a reminder, my family and I are going on vacation next week. Very much looking forward to that, but consequently, there will only be 3 shows, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, instead of all 5 days. I've already pre-recorded those and got them scheduled and everything, and so hope you enjoy those as always. Also coming up in a couple weeks, I'm going to do a show where I talk about the 3 best athletic moments from Carolina sports in the 2021-22 school year. Would love to have you all, the audience, the people that are part of this community, dive in and be part of making those decisions. And so I'm going to put out some things on social media about it. But if you want to get ahead of the game, you can send an email, lockedontarheels@gmail.com. Maybe give me your 3 to 5 favorite moments from this past year. Things like that would be great. You can DM the show Twitter account. You can DM me. You can respond on YouTube. I'll post something about it there as well. All right, let's get into this NBA draft content. Lots of it. That's today's show. First off, we've already said it, but Brady Manek unfortunately was not picked. Normally there are 60 draft picks in the NBA draft, 2 rounds of 30 picks each, but 2 of those picks were forfeited, so there were only 58 this year. Would he have been one of those 2 final picks? We will never know. So we wait now for Brady to either sign a 2-way contract or get an invite to a summer league team. And legitimately, in full transparency, I'm recording this on Thursday night, like immediately after the draft ended. And so I'll kind of be checking Twitter as we record here, and maybe we'll get some news in real time. I'm going to search for Brady signing a contract or doing something here. Nope, still undrafted as of right now, but we'll keep checking in as the show goes on. Okay, so legitimately, I don't get this. I mean, obviously, I'm not an NBA GM. I'm not an NBA talent scout. But I watch a crud ton of basketball, and I know what the NBA is looking for. This is a league that values shooting. This is a league that values scoring, putting the ball in the basket over just about everything else. If you're a bucket, you've got a shot in the NBA. Bigs that can step out, which is exactly what Brady Manek is. He is a legit stretch fourth. As I said, 333 college three-pointers made between Oklahoma and Carolina combined. And so, you know, we saw it with Cam Johnson. You remember on draft night how surprised there was that whole Kobe White was at a press conference after being drafted when he heard how high Cam went. Nobody expected that. Why did the Suns take Cam that high? Because he hits everything under the sun. Obviously, he's probably a little more, he's more athletic and can defend and do a few other things differently than Brady. But there has to be a spot for this dude to land. And don't just take my advice for it. Listen to his head coach, a guy that did okay for himself in the NBA. Here's what Coach Hubert Davis had to say earlier this week.
It's very hard for me to imagine there's not a place for Brady in the NBA. With his size, his ability to shoot, I mean, you guys saw it. He's more than he can shoot. He's elite. There's guys that can make shots, there's guys that can make open shots, and there's guys that can also make contested shots, and Brady can do it all. And especially where the game is, and then you combine that with the character and the way that he carries himself, the type of person he is, the family that he comes from, he will be playing in the NBA next year. And I'm really, really proud of him, and I'm really excited about this process and the draft coming up in the next couple weeks.
There you go. Hubert Davis said he will be playing in the NBA next year. And so, listen, Hubert Davis knows these things. He knows the game. He knows what's going on. And so, yes, he can be given to a little verbal hyperbole from time to time, Coach Davis. But he's not just going to throw that around for the sake of throwing it around. I believe he legitimately thinks that Brady has a spot on an NBA roster and can stick. But again, it was not meant to be. Brady Manek goes undrafted, and so, as I've said again, we're waiting on a two-way contract or summer league deal to be made known and be made public. I would imagine by the time you are listening to this or watching it, again, that news has already come out. Now, here's the good news, though, about going undrafted. For those of you that are football fans, let's put it in the context of the NFL draft. There are 7 rounds, and by the time you get to Saturday, which is rounds 4, 5, 6, 7, especially 6 and 7, you get to that point where it's like, yeah, there's the prestige of being drafted. That would be really cool. But you'd almost rather go as an undrafted free agent, and then you can be a little bit picky and choosy about what franchise you want to go try to catch on with, a place that you may be connected with during interviews and workouts, maybe a place where you feel like your skill set can really be a fit. And I think the same is probably quite true here as well. You know, you get to the second round, and it's not guaranteed in the same way that the first round is. And so once you get down that level, it's like, again, yes, the prestige of saying, yeah, I was a 2022 draft pick is great. But at the end of the day, would you rather say I was a draft pick and flamed out, or I was undrafted and had a really solid 10-year career in the NBA because I know how to be a professional, I know how to be a team first guy, I know how to make shots, I know how to do what I need to do. Yeah, I'd rather be undrafted and be a little bit choosy, and so hopefully Brady is able to do that. And one of the differences also, the NFL draft ends on Saturday afternoon, and so there are tons and tons of information coming out immediately about UDFAs, undrafted free agents. And while we're getting a lot of that, like I'm seeing a ton of it on my Twitter timeline here in real time, but just not the sheer amount of volume that you would hear during the NFL draft. So again, we wait on that news. Thursday night was also a great reminder for me, not about any of the Tar Heels in the draft, but as I saw names go off the board one by one, I kept thinking of one particular Tar Heel who will be playing back in Chapel Hill this upcoming season. Who was it and why was I thinking about him? You're going to have to wait for just a minute on that one right after I talk to you about Bet Online. Bet Online is your number one source for all your sports betting needs and info. Find all the latest developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's NHL playoffs and MLB. Bet Online is your continued source for all your sports wagering info, including live betting, esports, and more. And Bet Online remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including MMA, boxing, and golf. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about all the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. So who was this other Tar Heel I was thinking about as I was watching the NBA draft? Well, let me just name some names for you. Paolo Banchero, Duke, first pick of the draft. AJ Griffin, Dereon Seabron, Justin Lewis. What do these four names all have in common? And these are just examples. There's more that I'm leaving out. These are all guys who are either drafted on Thursday night. What is that? I'm talking like Andy Samberg in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Noise. That's awesome. These are all guys who are either drafted on Thursday night or were immediately now announced to have signed a two-way contract. Again, Banchero was number 1 off the board to the Magic. AJ Griffin, number 16 to the Hawks. Dereon Seabron signed a two-way contract with the Pelicans. He was that NC State standout, you might remember. And Justin Lewis from Marquette signed a two-way with the Bulls. But there's something else very specific that these four young men all have in common. They all experienced the hashtag Leaky Lockdown. That's right. Now, Banchero not as much because Leaky didn't spend as much time on him. That was a lot more Brady. Obviously, Carolina started off the first game against Duke with Armando on him, and that didn't go quite as well as the Tar Heels had hoped or anticipated. But Leaky did end up spending some good time on him in that game, and then Brady took the bulk of the assignment in later games. But AJ Griffin kind of went off in that first game when Leaky was spending more time on Banchero. And then, when Leaky's guarding AJ Griffin, the other two games, bro, go home. And then he goes 16th overall to the Hawks, which I'm very conflicted about. I think I've said this on the podcast. I am an Atlanta native. Grew up on the south side of Atlanta, so I'm a huge Braves fan, as you know if you watch or listen to the show often. Love the Falcons, even though we're terrible, and even though 28-3 I will never forget. And I'm a big Hawks fan, even though they underachieved this year after overachieving a year ago. Picked AJ Griffin. I'm conflicted because he's a Dookie. And, while I try to be fair as much as I can to all teams, I'm a Tar Heel, and I love the Tar Heels. And so it's like, I don't want to cheer for AJ Griffin. But he is a great basketball player, except when Leaky Black is locking him down. Boom, roasted, take that, son. Dereon Seabron, again, two-way contract with the Pelicans. Phenomenal scorer. Had a great year, except for 2 games. If my memory serves, we talked about in Quick Hitters how those were the only 2 games this year where Seabron was held under into single-digit scoring. Somebody's going to have to fact-check me on that because I'm saying that off the top of my head in real time. I'm going to fact-check myself while we're talking. But so Seabron, another one of these guys who signed on Thursday night and Leaky Lockdown. And then what about Justin Lewis? Well, you might recall Lewis came into the Marquette Carolina game, first round of the NCAA tournament. All this hype, everything going on, all that noise, and he got wholeheartedly shut down by my man Leaky. I believe it was 7 points in total he scored. Okay, I've got Seabron's page pulled up here. Yes, the first game against Carolina, he scored 2 points. Seabron did. The second game, he got up to 11, but the reason I was thinking that is because it was a lot of garbage time points at the end of the game. But that first Carolina game was one of just 2 games all season where he ended up scoring in single digits. The other was Wake Forest in early March. And so, yeah, my man Leaky is who I was thinking of all night long, because all these guys who are getting drafted keep popping up, and I'm like, Leaky shut him down, Leaky locked him down, Leaky stopped him, Leaky's his daddy, all of that noise. And so here's why I want to bring that up in this context, in this setting, because here Leaky is the most underrated member of this starting 5. I'm going to talk about this more later on in the summer, but I think we give so much adulation to all the scorers while forgetting that if Leaky Let's say he holds Dereon Seabron to 2 points, as he did. Let's say Seabron for the season is averaging 15 points. Those 13 points under his average are just as good as Leaky scoring an extra 13 points, right? And so that's where plus minus comes into play. And so this all these guys getting drafted or signing two-way contracts is a reminder to me of just what specifically a high-level impact Leaky Black can have on a game because of his defense. Is that going to be enough after next season to land him a spot on an NBA roster or to get him drafted? I don't know the answer to that. But I do know that he deserves a harder and better look than he's getting. Pat, I believe Coach Pat Kilby and I talked about it this week, or maybe it was just a personal conversation we had. But I had a show where I talked about Field of 68's top 25 returning players, and Mondo is 3 on that list. RJ's on it, Caleb's on it. Leaky's not on that list, but I think he's just as impactful in many ways as those other guys, and people don't often recognize that. So I want to take this opportunity in this moment of the draft where we're celebrating all these guys to also say, yeah, but look at what Leaky Black did to them. And I can't wait to see a whole new crop of Leaky lockdown candidates this upcoming season. Would love to hear your thoughts on who you can't wait to see Leaky shut down. Like some of these Duke freshmen coming in. Give me all that Leaky noise in those games. It's going to be a lot of fun. Lot of fun. Well, there were obviously other draft things that happened on Thursday night, including 2 former Tar Heels, one of whom heard his name called, the other who didn't. Who were they and what happened? We'll talk about it in just a second after I tell you about Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models of cars, it's nearly impossible for your local auto parts store to stock everything you need. So why have to go through all those questions you don't know the answers to, when you could just sit at home and get on Rock Auto and figure it out for yourself? Even if you don't know how to put it together or put it in or fix it, you could get the part and then get somebody else to do it. That's what I do, because I don't know a thing about cars and I need stuff like this. Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Friends, that consistency is something that you can believe in. Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every customer, and their inventory has everything that you need. So go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. While you're there, write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we are the ones that sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your vehicle will ever need. That's rockauto.com. All right, so what are some of the other storylines from the draft? I got a couple Carolina things for you, and then just a couple things that stuck out to me as well. First off, Walker Kessler, who transferred to Auburn after last year, and I think I said it another time this week, famously had more blocks by himself than the entire Carolina roster this past year. Yeah, that happened. He went 22nd overall to the Memphis Grizzlies, so he's going to go and play with the homie Ja Morant. That should be a lot of fun for him, getting to play in transition with that. I can just see Kessler getting a block, big outlet pass to Ja on the break for a dunk. That'd be crazy. Also, Garrison Brooks went undrafted, and so I know there was wonder if he might slip in somewhere, but just, again, not to be. I think Manek obviously had greater potential of getting drafted than did Brooks, but that wasn't meant to be. So similarly, as we wait to hear about Brady Manek's landing spot, we also wait to hear about Garrison Brooks' landing spot. And so let's see, in real time, once again, let's look. Anything with Brady yet? Nope. Nothing on Brady. So we'll keep waiting, keep looking, and looks like we might not get that in real time. As I said, Paolo Banchero went first overall to the Magic. And so here's what I want to know. How quickly does Cole Anthony start talking crap to him about what happened this past year in Krzyzewskiville, in Cameron, and then in the Final Four? Like, Cole Anthony is bringing that noise in some sort of way. I guess you got to be careful because it's your new teammate and you don't want to like set each other at odds, but there's that good-natured ribbing that goes on in NBA locker rooms all the time. We hear about it. And so I'm looking forward to some of that noise. Similarly, Mark Williams, Duke's big guy that was drafted. Duke had 4 dudes drafted in the first round. I believe it was 3 in the top 16, 4 in the top 26, and then Trevor Keels in the second round. Crazy. It's a great haul for Duke. But just makes it all the more impressive that what Carolina did to them last year. Hey, you've got 4 first-round draft picks. Congratulations, the Tar Heels ended your season and Coach K's career, and you lost your last regular season for Coach K in Cameron. So, yeah. We're great with your 4 first-round draft picks. Anyway, back to Mark Williams. He was drafted by the Hornets. Similarly to me wondering about Cole Anthony getting all up in Paolo Banchero's ear, when's MJ start talking crap to Mark Williams? Because MJ wants to talk crap, wants to come out on top, wants everybody to know his greatness and all that. So you best believe that noise is coming from Mark Williams at some point as well. Something else I just wanted to mention about the NBA draft is it's just one of these special moments in life. These young men, these families, coaches have been working literally for almost 2 decades to get these young men to these points, specifically with the families. And now that's coming to fruition. You think back to the first time they dribbled a basketball, or they showed promise, or late nights out running drills in the driveway, or whatever it was. And to see that come to fruition, what a special thing that is. And to that point, I was texting with a first chair assistant at a Big 12 program on Thursday night. I'll just leave it at least that level of generic, who had 2 different players drafted on Thursday night, 1 in each round. One of them was a lottery pick, one of these. So we were exchanging some texts back and forth, just talking about it. And I was just asking him, like, what is it like as a coach to see your guys going through this? And so he just talked about how absolutely crazy it is to witness these young men you've spent at least a year with, if not a couple, 2, 3, 4 years with, how crazy it is to witness players who they've spent so much time investing in doing what they just did, walking across that stage, putting a hat on, shaking hands with the commissioner, and then starting this brand new life where they're now a multimillionaire. Like, what on earth? And so but the cool thing is he just talked about what a special time that is as a coach, to see all the blood, sweat, and tears, the yelling, the cajoling, the positioning, the technique, all of that. It's so fulfilling to see all that hard work pay off. And so I do want to remember what a special time a moment like this is. For us as a fan base, yes, I am so sad for Brady Manek. I'm so upset that he didn't get drafted. But there are so many special moments that are happening, and there's going to be special moments for Brady too. It just wasn't on Thursday night. Perhaps the neatest moment of the entire draft for me happened with Jaden Ivey, who came out of Purdue. You might remember him because Carolina played Purdue in November in Uncasville, Connecticut. Really good game. Purdue pulled away just at the end, I believe won by 9 points. But Jaden Ivey is just a dude. Now, you might already know this backstory, but his mom is Notre Dame's head women's basketball coach. She's also coached on the Memphis Grizzlies staff. And so Niele Ivey is her name. Now, Niele is a phenomenal basketball player herself and played for the Detroit Shock, who was Detroit's WNBA team. Now, here's what's cool. Jaden Ivey, a lot of talk about, he's... everyone assumed he would be a top 5 pick. He's just growing and growing and growing. Sophomore, kind of same thing as Ja Morant, but more bulky than Ja Morant. Ivey needs to develop a shot. That's probably his biggest shortcoming right now. His athleticism, kind of similar to Seth Trimble, has allowed him to just get into the lane and do what he needs to do. but is a wrecking ball and just seems like a great kid. Well, grew up as his mom was coaching at Notre Dame, like as a ball boy, doing all these things. There was even talk, Kyle Boone from CBS in his, was all on the Jaden Ivey train. Had him as his number 1 overall pick. And, but what's super, super cool is that where did Jaden Ivey get selected? Number 5 by whom? The Detroit Pistons, playing now in the same city as his mom played. And so his mom was there obviously with him at the draft, and there was just a really neat interview. He was super emotional, and you love to see that. Just we talked about just what a special moment this is for these young men, these families, etc. And I mean, you could just see how overcome he was. And I think part of that is he's been around this game so long, this game of basketball, and he knows what it takes. He knows how difficult and how hard it is to get to this apex of basketball, which is what the NBA is internationally. And so you just love to see that moment with a professional basketball player mom who is now a coach at another ACC school, loving on her son who's going to go play for a franchise in the same city where she played. You can't make this stuff up, friends. Sports brings us the best stories ever. Well, before we sign off here, one last look to see if we've got any more news on Brady Manek and his whereabouts. Brady. Doesn't look like it. Well, friends, you'll have to be looking for yourself again. As you're hearing or watching this, we probably already have some news by this point. Well, that's it for this episode, and that's it for this week on Locked On Tar Heels. As always, man, so fun. It's been a great week. All the Pete Nance news, and getting ready for the NBA draft, and man, so much good stuff going on. Coming up on next week's shows. Again, remember, there's only 3 shows: Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Monday, we're going to be talking about Iron 5 versus Depth. What are we going to have this year? Wednesday show, Coach Pat Kilby and I unpack Seth Trimble, the last freshman in our summer preview series. And then Friday's show is an interview with former Carolina offensive lineman Brian Chacos, who now works for the Rams Club. Going to be great interview with him. In the meantime, I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Tar Heels your first listen or watch every single day. Again, please subscribe wherever you listen, or if you're watching, real easy. Just hit the subscribe button right there by the video. Doesn't cost you anything, and it helps out the show a ton, and it gets it out there to more and more people. So does smashing the like button. So as you hit subscribe, please smash the like button. Would love to hear your thoughts and feedback and best wishes to Brady Manek and these other Tar Heels as they go on to their next steps. You can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Heels. You can follow me on Twitter at Isaac Schade, ISAACSCHADE. Get more on the ACC by making Locked On ACC your second listen every day. Host Candace Cooper and the local experts of the Locked On panel of Locked On shows take you across the ACC in 30 minutes or less. Make Locked On ACC your second listen. Thanks so much for spending part of your week hanging out with me talking Carolina sports. I hope you have a phenomenal weekend, and I'll be thinking of you as I sit on the beach with a drink, eating some good food, and hanging out with my family. I hope you get the opportunity to do the same with your family. And in the meantime, I want to remind you that it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. Until next week, peace!